Are you ready for a show that actually shifts you? With real, raw, honest conversations about what it takes to become the most embodied version of yourself. And are you ready to remember that the world really does need your medicine? This is the podcast to awaken that.
I can hear a calling.
Because we all feel our higher self pulling us to our next expansion. But the only way to really get there is by sharing our stories together. So welcome to the World Needs Your Medicine podcast. This is the place where we can have real conversations about the things that have worked for us, the lessons we've learned, the hard struggles along the way, and the things that have shifted us into the versions of ourselves we are now. Here on the show, you'll hear from some of the most incredible guests that have transformed their lives using the exact tools they talk about and offer inside each episode. I'm so honored to share this with you, and I can't wait to dive deeper, because when you see the power of what others have created, you believe you can create it too. And that's all we are really trying to remember, because the world really does need our medicine, and it starts by finding it within yourself. I'm Lauren Eliz Love, and let's dive into the show. Thanks for being here. I feel like, how do I put this? Like, even taking this first breath to share, I can feel the contraction in my body. I can wow. Like, there's so much to talk about. There's so much to share. And I can just feel like the possibility. I don't know if you've ever felt this way where you're like, I have to say something in a room where I'm aware that like not everybody in the room likes me. Like, that's how I feel right now. I'm like, oh, how do I hold that? How do you hold that? How do you speak truth to what's alive for you while simultaneously knowing that what you are going to say and how you are going to say it before you even open your mouth, you have listeners who are like, I have a preconceived notion about you. I already have a formed perspective about you. Back in the day, if I were to walk into a room, knowing that I would have to speak in front of people who didn't like me, didn't care for me, didn't resonate with me, didn't agree with me, I immediately would not feel safe. And I can feel that part of myself, that like young part of myself coming up here as I record this podcast. And my job is to meet that part of me and to recognize that what I'm about to do in recording this podcast is going to rewrite the stories that she has been holding that say she's not safe. That say, don't speak up. Don't express yourself. It's not safe to do that. It is safe to do that, actually. And I'm going to do that today in this podcast. And I'm going to, in real time, hold that part of me. And maybe that's a good lesson to start with for all of you listening. Like, where in your life are you contracting because you know that what you say or how you say it or who you say it to is going to be met with a lack of receptivity? Is your job to be received by everybody? Or is your job to receive the initiation that you need to heal that part of you? The part of you that says, don't speak up, don't say your truth, don't express what's alive. I can tell you from my lived experience, I've been doing this healing work and being on my own transformational path for the last 15 years alongside my best friend and medicine sister. And we process these things. Like, where am I contracting? Where am I afraid to speak up? Where am I afraid to say what's alive for me? And sometimes there's like a difference in the navigation of that. Like, sometimes it's, I need to process this before I speak, right? Like, I need to really understand what I feel and how I feel it before I say it. and I don't need to rush my response, and I can hold myself. And you're so worthy of that in those situations where you need to meet that need and take time and space and give that part of you support. And sometimes there's something that needs to be said, and the lesson is about rewriting the story that you're not safe to say it. So I'm going to be safe to say it here, and hopefully that's, a strong lesson and message for you. There has been a fire. There's been a fire that's been like coming up in my body lately, and I'm really happy about it. And even though it perhaps is not fully integrated or fully embodied, and I'm still humbly stumbling, learning, and, having these moments where I'm like, that was a good lesson. I'm also in this relationship with myself where I'm like, it's actually really safe to learn publicly. Like I'm not afraid of like doing something wrong and receiving a reflection and noticing how that comes up in my body and going, maybe I need to do that differently. Oh, that didn't feel right. Okay, let me learn. I'm okay. I'm safe to learn publicly. And I think that when it comes to like sharing our perspective and sharing our points of view and being authentically expressed, we don't really all the time feel safe to share our points of view in a public way, because the learning experience of our life has been full of like condemnation and being reprimanded for doing it wrong. Like I remember, when I was younger, there were like very, very vivid memories for me where I was simply a little kid learning what boundaries are, learning how to show up in an appropriate way. And I would be reprimanded in that young child process of just learning how to be a human in the world. I was reprimanded, I was condemned, I was spanked, I was yelled at. There were these things that really taught me unconsciously, just like in the process of being a kid and being raised, right? We learn like, oh, it's not safe to learn. I'm going to experience pain. Oh my gosh. Nobody's going to teach me with kindness or sovereignty. Everybody's going to teach me with aggression. And what that can do for us is we like grow up and we become human, fully formed adults, is that we're like so terrified. We're so terrified to make mistakes. We're so terrified. And this beautiful fire that I've been feeling, I'm just so deeply grateful for in my own personal study of self-healing, because I feel like over the last, and this might make me emotional and I'll be honest about it, over the last, I don't know, maybe year, I feel like my fire was, I don't want to use the word taken, but it was smoldered. Or maybe we can just say it smoldered. Like we don't have to cause or like be at, who's at fault for this. But I want to share in this podcast episode, like what's been happening in my life as I step into these very strong points of view in the online space, speaking my truth about the perspectives and that I have. And it's been coming through this channel of talking about the westernization of ayahuasca. And my husband even said to me, he's like, you posted that? Like, and you didn't? Did you expect like people not to be angry about that? And he said that, and I was like, no, I knew, like, I knew like this was going to create some heat. And it was also like, I'm so grateful I did it, because it is holding such a beautiful dialogue. Like I'm learning so much from everything people are sharing, like people who are like getting their PhDs in the study of psychedelics and sending me articles that they're reading, or women who've traveled to study with indigenous lineages that I haven't, and they have points of view and they're sharing their experiences with other facilitators and different perspectives that I didn't have. And I'm going, oh, this is like, wow, I like this. Like I'm learning so much and it's helping me grow. So I really think, if I look at like what's going on, I'm really, really grateful. like really, really grateful that we as a community, generally speaking, majority of us can hold these conversations where we can say, I agree with your perspective to a point, and this is what I believe, or I don't agree with your perspective and here's why. Like, I love that. I think it's incredible. Like, we as women have to really do our best. This is, again, my belief. You can take it or leave it, right? This is how I see life. We as women, we don't need to battle, because when we are growing, stretching, and changing, it's not about patriarchal dominance of like, my belief is right over yours and here's why, and you have to believe it. There's no hierarchy of control that actually creates change for us as women. That doesn't work for us. I don't think it works at all on this planet, right? And we have to dissolve that. And the way that we learn, again, this is my belief, the way that we learn is by listening to our bodies and noticing like what comes up for me. So when I have a belief, like that best friend I mentioned, right? We have different beliefs. We have different points of view. I can share my belief and I say, this is what I feel. This is how I see this thing. This is my perspective. And then she will share her perspective. She says, this is my belief. This is my perspective. And as we have that dialogue in very sovereign, regulated nervous systems in a grounded way, I can feel where my body goes, oh, I resonate with that. Oh, yes. Like that's lighting me up. Yeah. And then our bodies like recode to that resonance. And that's how we learn. That's how we learn. Women don't heal in hierarchy. We heal in these circles where we're all just like mirroring each other and showing to each other. And through those lessons, like I said, these comments, some of these messages that I'm getting from you guys on these posts, I'm like, wow, I'm learning, like how incredible. And it's through my vulnerability, because I love to learn. I really value learning. It's through my vulnerability of being in my truth and not being afraid to do that, even if it's considered right or wrong by somebody else, even if it makes somebody angry, even if it triggers somebody's wounds and their own stuff. Being in my truth really invites in it's an invitation for other people to say, well, here's mine. But if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to actually hold that vessel, I have to be in a place of sovereignty, because I want the people who are going to also respond and engage to feel sovereign and safe as well. I never want somebody to feel like they can't share their points of view. So I have to feel like I can, right? That's leadership. Like we're walking each other through this process. And in this experience, there have been a lot of things that are coming up, and some of them are not entirely resonant to me. I can feel someone's perspective and I can go, oh, yeah, I don't agree with that, but like I love that perspective for them. Like that's really beautiful. And I also can receive and feel the sensation of somebody's hate. I can notice where somebody's very activated or triggered by what I say. I can notice that somebody wants to call me a name or behind a keyboard yell at me, right? And I just say that I'm not available for your condemnation. Like, go put that elsewhere. And in fact, when we condemn and when we blame and when we make wrong in this aggressive way, there's something to be looked at in that behavior. Why is that a part of the way in which you communicate? Let's look at you on your yoga mat and notice what's coming up, right? And I can observe that and I can hold that and recognize that within somebody and have a great amount of compassion for it. But I'm not going to hold anything that impacts my self-worth, my sense of knowing of myself, my belief that I'm kind, compassionate, and loving. And I can be unshakable in my own identity structure while simultaneously like holding what's coming up for somebody and keeping unaffected, right? And I know that's like, I'm not really explaining that well. I'll probably go into it in today's episode of this podcast, but you know, all of this to say, my identity is indestructible. My sense of self-worth is unshakable. And I don't need to feel shame for learning. I don't need to feel bad about myself. I don't need to feel like if somebody doesn't resonate with me that like, oh my God, I didn't make them happy. Like, please don't resonate with me. I don't care, right? And I don't mean that in an unkind way. I just mean that like being able to hold myself while all of this is happening around me feels so victorious to claim, because I have grown up my entire life people pleasing. That was my conditioned environment, what I've learned from my mother. There's such an air of like, you have to do what makes other people happy. You need to show up for everybody else except yourself. You need to say all the right things to get approved of. And living in that life is so incredibly exhausting for my body. I'm sure you can relate to that, that I'm just, you know, I'm 37 years old. I'm not available for that story anymore. I'm just not. I have better things to do with my life than to hold other people's emotional experiences. And I really want to say that with an edge. So it invites you to really understand that like you have permission to do that in your world as well. My healing is not your responsibility. And other people's lives of their healing paths and like what they're looking at or not looking at and like being willing to do the work, that's not your job. That's not your role in this life. Like, let's all stay sovereign. And I think that there's a really beautiful way where we can find this path where we're really dedicated to helping the world heal while simultaneously not making it our job to change other people. And I guess too, I would say, like, I understand that in this life, you know, I remember I was talking to my teacher about this a couple of years ago, and I was like feeling a lot of activation around the keyboard warriors. And I was like really, feeling very activated by like, not by anything that I was receiving, but at the time I was noticing there was a lot of content on the internet that was like calling people out and fighting for the political war and being really angry about what was happening in the government, and like all the posts that were just so fiery. And I was activated by it because I felt like this really aggressive approach of battle is very oppressive and very much the source of our suffering to begin with. Like, why are we fighting the same way that we've always been fighting? We know the war doesn't get won that way. The spiritual war I'm speaking to metaphorically, like the healing war metaphorically. Like, we need to come into kindness. We need to come into compassion and understanding. And so I was talking to him about this, and he said, you know, Lauren, the world needs people on the front line too. And if that's not you, that's okay. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. Like, that doesn't resonate with me to walk in that way. And also, I don't need to like, I need to look at that activation within myself. Like, why is that so activating for me? It's because I've been through those battles. I've been through situations where there was condemnation and shame and aggression and attack. And it wasn't kind to me. I remember like being really, really young and like learning as like a 13-year-old girl and making this really big mistake in my peer group, and like getting like 6 different notes in my locker from all the girls who said, I'm breaking up with this friendship. You're a horrible person. I think you're terrible. Don't ever talk to me again. And it was because I had made this social mistake, like learning as a human being. So, you know, I felt this like great sense of activation back then, talking to my teacher about that. And, you know, it was really that kind of led me on this path of discovery. Like, how do I stand in my fire of truth and not wage a war and not battle and make people wrong? My really close, dear sister, Stephanie, she and I helped my teacher in these ayahuasca ceremonies, and she recently went to support, and I've been taking a sabbatical, which I might mention here, right? Like, I've been taking this pause. I think it'll probably weave itself into the story, but I've been taking a pause to integrate on my medicine path, and she went to go support. And she was sharing with me kind of as she was integrating her experience as a person supporting the facilitator, there were some things that were coming up. And what she realized was she said this to me. She's like, this path of sovereignty, when we're looking at energetics and we're dealing with like all these really dark kind of challenging, heavy energies or things that we don't want in our life, or, people who kind of exhibit patterns or traits or personality things that we just like, we don't want in our life. How do we discern without condemnation? That's what she said to me. How do we discern without condemnation? And I feel like that is such a powerful thing to reflect on within ourselves. And if we're attached to condemnation, we are attached to condemnation. Like, if you feel like that's how you have to express in order to command your truth or be in your purpose or share your point of view, why are you attached to that? Like, what are you holding on to? Where is that judgment coming from? And why do you think that's the answer? And who taught you that? You obviously learned that behavior because you were condemned and reprimanded and shamed. And so that's maybe the unconscious way that you've learned to actually move in the direction of what you want. And like, that doesn't resonate with me. Doesn't resonate. So let me share a little bit about my journey here, because I know on this episode, as you guys are listening, there's probably a lot of you who say, like, I just really want to be expressed. I really want to share my truth. And I really want to learn to like not be afraid of judgment and not be afraid of criticism. And as somebody who struggled with that my entire life, I can tell you I don't have all the answers. I can tell you what has worked for me. I can share what I've done or how my process has unfolded with all of this. And hopefully something I say, maybe something I've said already, has helped you or inspired you or just, made you feel like, that was really helpful. I see that. Again, that sisterhood kind of energy, like I'm going to share transparently, and what resonates with you, maybe that's when your body goes, oh yeah, and that's how we grow. So, what I want to say in recognizing that there's a lot of leaders in here, there's a lot of people who are entrepreneurs or service providers or caregivers, healers, light workers, and a lot of you are holding this study of like financial compensation for your work and learning how to like expand that out and being able to have a massive impact while also receiving a lot of prosperity. And if you are new here, what you may not know, or you probably know because I've talked about it, I've been an entrepreneur sharing my personal healing journey since 2015 full time. And the last 2 years have been a really, really big expansion for me. I went on a year-long sabbatical in 2020 to look at chronic illness and complex trauma that was continuously coming up on my entrepreneurial path. My nervous system was incredibly dysregulated. I had no capacity to hold anything. And it was through that sabbatical, sitting with ayahuasca over and over and over again, that I really unraveled my interpersonal connection to self and became this, I don't want to say different version of myself, but we can just say like more myself. I became more true to my authentic nature and more healed. And that path and like what that opened up for me was really incredible because so much of my work changed through that personal initiation. I designed the HEAL program, which was an intensive online methodology that walked people through the 12 steps of healing that ayahuasca walked me through without medicine, right? So it was this study of, like, I call it the spiritual 12 steps. And it was incredibly life-changing for people. I literally translated my initiation and my sabbatical into a healing program online. And the results were truly phenomenal for people, like healing addiction, getting pregnant after infertility, feeling, like chronic illness symptoms have disappeared, creating a lot of wealth, losing weight, finding soulmates, like everything was manifesting for people. And that program helped hundreds of women completely rewrite their life story. And then I realized that what I was also healing at the time and birthing that program was my ability to receive in wealth and prosperity. And that's when the Wild Wealthy Feminine program was created. And that was the 6 steps of the Wild Wealthy Feminine method, these things that we needed to heal as entrepreneurs to really come into our power, healing our relationship with desire, our relationship with hard work, our relationship with worthiness, and like looking at these things, rewiring them in a shamanic way, and like opening up the doorway to receive. And that program was incredibly it was amazing for people. It created so much massive change in the world. Hundreds of women signed up. And throughout my time in these last 15 years, I don't know if it's 15 years. Hold on. It's 2026. 11 years. It's been 11 years. In the last 11 years, I've been an entrepreneur. I've been continuously sharing my initiations through teaching. So I will go through something and then I will say, okay, how can I methodolize this, even though that's not a word, and like put it out into the world. So my work is always leaned into vulnerability, my personal perspectives, my strong points of view. And over the last 2 years, my business blew up, reaching $1.1 million in 2024, and again, $1 million in 2025. And while that is, really cool to say, like, I'm a healing teacher and I made $1 million in a year, it's not, you don't see that a lot, right? Like a lot of healers struggle to create prosperity. They don't know how to do it. They feel really challenged by the worthiness to receive. They feel like it's hard to hold all that expansion. I felt like on fire at the time. I felt this like, whoa, I'm in my purpose. I feel strong in my messaging. I feel like I know what to say and how to say it. I feel like I'm unshakable. I feel like all these really great things were happening. And what's also really important to see is not like the front end result, but what was happening in the back end. And I want to say too, like, as you're listening to this, all of this history is really important. So if you're here and you're like, just get to the point, I'm obviously not for you, because I will get to the point. Let's be patient with understanding this context, right? Because it is a really good teaching for all of you guys who are here if you desire to learn. So in those 2 years, everything was like expanding. And money does not change your life. I want to be so clear about that. Money doesn't change. Money expands. So whatever currently is going to grow. And in that process of growth, where like all the abundance is coming in, there's like a ton of light, like millions of dollars, like, wow, I'm receiving so much. That light is so strong to receive. Wow, oh my gosh, I'm receiving so much from the work I do. But as a result, that light illuminates all shadow as well. And we have to, I just really, I don't want to say we have to, but I desire to be really transparent with you guys about what that process has brought up for me, because I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs speak to it. I think we see people in this facade publicly of like how easy it is, how happy they are, how successful they are, all the things they have, how accomplished, how figured out they have it, right? Like that's what we see. In my reality, in my lived experience, there was a lot that wasn't that. In those 2 years of expansion, there was, situations where my nervous system was just pushed so far beyond my capacity. And that kept going and going and going. I didn't know how to hold and sustain the way in which all of that abundance was coming through for me. And it was very challenging. I know sometimes in my Body of Wealth program, for example, which is running right now inside of the Sanctuary app, I was talking with a student on one of the calls, and she was saying, like, I'm afraid of a lot of money because I'm afraid of responsibility. And I understand that fear, because when I was making all of this money and I had no boundary, because all I cared about was like just helping people and being of service, but I didn't have these boundaries around my time, or these boundaries around my relationships with my clients, or these boundaries around, how I saw business as it was placed in my interpersonal world. I didn't quite have all of that figured out. I was just devoted to service. So with that overgiving mentality and that people-pleasing nature, all this money came in and I didn't have the protection to like hold it all. So what this ended up looking like for me, a couple of different things. It was, number one, like a jam-packed schedule. Like I've never said no. I never had a client come into my world and say, honestly, I don't think we should work together, or I don't have availability to receive you right now. Like, you have to get on a wait list. Like, or, I don't want to launch that program right now. My body needs rest. Like, I never allowed it, though, any of those things, because I was just so committed to saying, like, I have this message, I have this mission, this channel of work, this body of work is so alive in me. I got to give. And I wasn't protecting myself. So obviously, money illuminated that lack of protection. And what that looked like was my body feeling very tired and feeling and holding a lot of stress, noticing that I had trouble sleeping. My heart was racing a lot. I felt a lot of pressure in my hips. I was constantly feeling like I was tired, and I was noticing this. And because of my healing path, I could recognize, like, okay, my body's communicating with me, something is not right here. I know this. And I had to start adjusting, right? I had to start making these changes. So I started to put more boundaries in place, and I started to schedule my time with a little bit more of like a mama bear, protective, micromanaging kind of energy. And that worked for a little while, and I noticed that it was actually meeting my needs. But there was also this other element of protection that didn't exist. And that protection came with like the expectations of finances. And I'm going to say this, and I want everybody to just feel this, like, just because money is part of the conversation does not mean that there's obligation involved. I think that there's a lot of healing that can manifest for a spiritual woman through the translation of her relationship with money. For example, if somebody pays you and you feel obligated to get them a result, to be there for them, to give them the best outcome, to make their transformation as effective as possible, where that obligation is really unhealthy. It's really unhealthy, and it's creates an invitation to like manipulation and people pleasing and lack of boundaries and overgiving. And that unconsciously is like the darkness or the shadow of money. It's there. That is very, very present in our world. Very, very present in our world. So it can come up for healers where they're like, wow, I'm noticing that this person paid me money and now I feel obligated to them. And now there's all this pressure coming through the field and I don't like that. And some people, rather than actually doing the work that is bringing forth, they just resist receiving in the first place because they don't want to feel that responsibility and they don't want to feel that projection of expectation. But like your job as a healer is to transmute what's coming to you, right? To notice what's coming up and actually be the hollow bone that can like clear that from the field for yourself and for your client and for the global collective. So for me, all of that came up, and it was not just about clients' expectations on me that I was feeling the pressure of. It was also employees. I was feeling an immense amount As a $1 million a year business owner, you have salaries to pay, you have bills to be responsible for. And I was feeling the pressure, all of that. I was feeling all the expectation around me. And what that was doing was slowly dwindling my fire of expression. Like, I became very afraid to like say the wrong thing, and became very like people pleasy again. Like, that wound, it just started coming up. Like, I have to make sure I get it right because I have employees to pay, I have clients I need to make happy, and I have to do a good job for everybody else. Those beliefs are disastrous. They're life-taking, they're life-alienating, they're life force destroying, because you're not in your power, you're not in your sovereignty, you're attached. And I was attached, and it was creating this like really intense experience. So what I ended up doing to like navigate this and move through this, and now we're going to bridge the gap for all of you listening. Like, here's what happens next with all this ayahuasca and triggering content that everybody's fired up about. What I ended up doing was saying, God, spirit, universe, take it all. Take it all. I'm not going to launch my programs anymore. I'm going to put them into an app at a low cost, and everybody can grab them if they want. That feels right in my body. I don't care about the revenue sustaining. I care about what feels right in my body. Take it. And I run this mastermind. I take these one-on-one clients. I'm not going to force enrollment anymore. I'm not going to push. If somebody wants to come to me for their deep somatic trauma healing recoding work, beautiful. They can reach out. I'll wait for the invitation. I'm not pushing anymore. I'm not driving. Take it. I started to hand off this pressure. Like, who am I without being Lauren of Love, the girl who makes $1 million a year teaching people how to heal? I don't want that expectation. Take it. I started to let everything go. And it was terrifying. I talked about this in my last episode, right? Just take it. Take it. I don't need this. And I was clearing all these things to make space. And it reminds me now, like, you guys know I've been building the sanctuary on my land. As I've been like pulling back weeds and clearing places of the land, I'm starting to see what the land wants to be authentically. And the prayer and the spirit of the earth that is here that I'm tending to is getting stronger and stronger and stronger, because I'm clearing out all the attachments, like all the poison ivy that's attached to the soil, all of those rooted weeds of sumac that aren't meant to be there. Take it all away. Let's see what this really authentically is, and let's steward it. And so in that process of pulling everything back, I started to feel this discovery of like, who am I without all these attachments, right? My identity started to get stronger. And in that, the fire started to come back of like, what do I actually really want to say? What do I actually really believe? What do I actually really feel is important to express? And that fire... that fire brought in this like full circle kind of experience where, in sharing my strong points of view, not everybody agreed. And I got to see how my body responded to that. Like, my identity is a hollow bone. My identity is just, I am. Like, I am myself. I am my truth. I am my, like, yeah, I am just me, you know? And the process of receiving judgment, criticism, maybe even anger, my job as me is to notice what comes up in my body in that process. Like, what perspective does somebody say where I go, oh, that taught me something, I learn, I resonate, I'm going to take that. My body went, ooh, yeah. And where in my body am I going, I don't. And when it comes to judgment, I can follow the same compass of like where somebody says something where it makes me go, oof, I feel that hurt. I feel that sadness. I feel overwhelmed by that person's response versus, oh, that person's having a moment. Go ahead. It's like if you see a child, I'll give you an example. And this is a pattern from my mother that I think many of you guys can relate to. When I was growing up, if I was going through a heavy emotion where I was like crying a lot or like really stressed or I hurt myself, I was so scared. I was so upset. I was so activated and aroused in my emotional sensation. And even to this day, like if I go to my mom in that state, she can't hold it, right? She has also an empathetic gift. And so what ends up happening for her is like she feels stressed, she feels anxious, she feels worried. She doesn't know how to have this like sovereign moment where she can just let me have my emotions and hold me in them. And what I've learned unconsciously from that in my childhood is that like I have to hold everybody else's emotions because that's how my mom behaved, and that's what I unconsciously learned. I once saw this video. I thought it was so beautiful. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was a dad in a grocery store with his kid, and the child was having this very big tantrum on the grocery line, and he was on the floor kicking and screaming and crying and wailing, and the father just in a sovereign way let him have his process. He didn't care about the social environment. He didn't care about like how he was perceived. He didn't care about rushing the child through that experience. He stayed sovereign and clear and let his child have the tantrum. And that's how I feel when I'm seeing people having their tantrums through the comments of my social media posts. Like I'm sitting here, I'm like, wow, go ahead. Have your moment, feel your feelings. It's okay. I'm not going to take this personally. And there's an attempt to try to get me to take it personally. Like, what can I say that's going to, let me put all this fire here for her. And I want to hold like a clear channel and space for people to express their fire. Like, I love that. I think it's really, really incredible, but I'm not going to make it my problem. I can certainly hold presence for what you are moving through, but I am not going to make it my problem, my priority, my personalization. That's not my job, actually. I have to take a long pause for that one. It's so interesting. And you know, there have been some comments that have come through where I'm just like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Like this one woman, she, everything that's been shared has been a gift for me. Like I see every comment as an opportunity, truly. And all those opportunities look different. Sometimes it's something somebody says that teaches me something I need to learn, and I'm so grateful. Sometimes it's something somebody says that does create a little activation in me, and I'm like, oh, what's that about? Let me see. But it's, you know, even the comments where somebody like, you know, said something about my spelling, because I have such an issue with the word Columbia. It's like a continuous problem for me. I'm very aware. And I put everything through spell check with Canva, and it just doesn't work. And I get frustrated because my whole life I was shamed and reprimanded and criticized so much for my spelling. Jesus, like I had a teacher in my journalism school. We had to take this class. It was like syntax and grammar, it was called. And it was this really important required class for journalism school. And I was going to school to be a journalist. My old life, I was a television producer at CBS. So I followed that path. And it was like, I don't know, like the first or second week of school. And the teacher, she was so unkind. She looked at me and she said, you know what? I really think you should consider a different profession. Like you don't have this skill. And it made me so mad. Made me so upset because I was a horrible speller my whole life. I could never remember, like, do you spell the word really with 2 L's or 1? Do you spell the word very with 2 R's or 1? And everything, like the O's and the U's, I just always had such a trouble with. And so she said this to me in college, and I was so angry. So I not only took her class twice, but I took it a third time as just for fun to improve. Like I wanted to be like, fuck you, I'm going to show you I'm serious about this. And I ended up, thank God for her, right? So beautiful. She created that fire in me. I got the best job of my graduating class. I worked at a network, a national network on national TV for 5 years. It was just truly like, I'm going to prove you wrong kind of energy. But anyway, all that to say, you know, when that comment came through, a couple of comments about my spelling, I was like, you know what? I'm feeling a little activation around this, and I'm going to tell you why. Like, I'm going to share. Like, if you can't be kind about spelling, what can you be kind about? Like, what is this really? And I also understand that that's incredibly sensitive for people who feel like the United States kind of has this thing where we like don't respect other cultures, or we're, not as educated or kind to other people, especially like the Latina community. So I understand. I really, really do. And also, let me also pose this perspective of like, if you are the type of person that cannot find kindness in grammar, syntax, and spelling, and you don't take people seriously when they make a mistake, I'm just curious, do you live your life not taking yourself seriously because you make mistakes? Are you hard on yourself because you make mistakes? Probably. And that's why you're treating this situation that way. That's hard. I feel for you. I feel for you. And I feel for everybody who's been commenting on these posts. I really do. Like, some people are incredibly angry because there's so much other stuff going on that really has nothing to do with me. And I see that. I see, like, in my experience, over the last 2 years, I had certain situations with clients that were like really, really challenging. And again, that was all my study. That was the things I needed to learn, my illumination. For example, I had this really dear friend that I hired. She hired me to work with her. And in that process, there was a lot of control, abuse, and manipulation that started to come forth. And she was my friend, so I was people pleasing. And I had never had a one-on-one client that was a friend. That was the first time. So it was really, very confrontational, very difficult. And I felt really defeated and abused and like taken. And that's all my victim consciousness that I need to feel and look at and process. And now I'm so grateful for that, all those difficult experiences, because letting go of the expectations of what I need to do because I'm making a lot of money, or I have a strong following, or what I'm supposed to do because I'm this like voice or leader. Like, I'm not here for your expectations. I have no interest in what you think I'm supposed to do or who I should be. That's on you. That's on you. That's yours. And I've never been able to really say that. I've never been able to really hold that sovereignty for myself. So even though I've been healing for the last 15 years, this like arrival of not giving a shit, right? Like, and just being like, hey, here's my perspective. And what I love, I think it's like, I was thinking about this today. Like, how do you explain this to people? How do you really talk about how to hold in integrity? And it's also not my job to say what is in integrity for people, because there are certain seasons of your life where you need to be a keyboard warrior and speak your anger and express. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I definitely, when I was younger, I had moments like that were really liberating. Like, I said this in the comments. Like, you feel the fire of being able to do that. But for me, what really resonates is being able to share something from a really grounded place. Like, this is your perspective and I don't resonate with it, but like, here's why. Here's my point of view. And I think when we have this dialogue where we're like making people wrong, we're like back in that patriarchal kind of condemnation abuse that's just not necessary or healthy for our human experience. So the comments that have been really circulating and moving through the field, as I said before, I'm like so grateful for, because everything is an invitation for me to notice, like, wow, there is something there for me to learn, or wow, there is something that's being activated, or wow, this person is exhausting me. Like, maybe I need boundaries around this person that's commenting 47 million times with misinformation. I'm not available. That's okay. I don't have to be available for that. I can say no. I don't have to waste my time. And like, you get to discern in all these interpersonal relationships, like who you allow to have access to you and who you give your time to and what you're available for and you're not. And in my study of integrity, what I'm really available for is this maturity where we can share our strong points of view without making each other wrong. And there are some people that just really want to be right, and go ahead. It's just fascinating. It's fascinating to me, like how much time certain people are spending like stalking my Instagram and like making comments on things over and over and over again. And I can see I'm triggering for them. Like I can see that. And whatever I'm bringing up for them is a beautiful opportunity for them, if they receive that, to actually like take a minute and notice what's coming up in their own body and see like, well, what is this here for? What do I have to learn? What does this say about me? What am I noticing? I think that, and I said this on a recent reel, like when you're so obsessed with making somebody wrong, I can say this from my lived experience from years of abuse and mistreatment and sexual trauma. When your energy, your time, your effort is dedicated so deeply to making somebody else feel wrong, it is because you are not feeling right within yourself. Truly. You can believe that somebody's perspective and point of view is not resonant with you, but if you're dedicating your time, your effort, your energy, your fight, your battle to making somebody else wrong, you are not feeling right within yourself. And there's something there. There's something there to like, and like I said, I've done it. Like, I remember this really difficult client situation I told you about with this friend. Like, I spent so much time, effort, and energy in my brain and body feeling her wrongness. I can't believe she did this to me. I can't believe she behaved this way. I was mistreated. I felt all of that. There was something wrong within myself that needed love, that needed compassion, that needed patience. There was something underneath that for me. And making her so wrong with all of my effort and energy was really distracting me from the felt experience of like grief and sadness and disappointment and hurt that my body was holding, because I had spent so much of my life trying to make everybody else happy, trying to do everything right for everybody, and it wasn't enough. My body felt so much grief for that. In that relational experience where that illuminated for me, I was giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and pleasing and pleasing and pleasing and pleasing. And all of that brought something up in me. Like, oh my gosh, I have spent so much time disregarding myself, making other people more important. I didn't want to face that right away. So like all I could really focus on was like her wrongness. So now I can see it. Now I can see it in the online space. And I think that because I'm not attached to money, like I don't care about being liked, because I'm not attached to, getting people results. I know now everybody's responsible for their own individual healing. It's not my job to heal the world. It's not my job to save and rescue people. I was working with a client recently and had a really big illumination for her that she's continuously processing. I said something to her along the lines of, your work is not your whole life. She's like, my work is everything to me. And I was like, whoa, can we look at that? Can we look at that for a minute? Like, your work is not supposed to be everything to you. It's not your identity. It's not, it should not be tied to your worthiness. We need some boundary here. Spiritual healers need boundary. It cannot be your entire life. You need to know who you are outside of that. So because I've been doing this unraveling and this detachment and this like severing of like these expectations, I can stand here and be in this state of unshakability where like I do not feel any sense of alteration of my self-worth, of my confidence, of my voice because of anything anybody else has to say. I feel really clear in that. And it's because I've let go of all of these attachments, right? I don't need a successful business identity to feel good about myself. My work in facilitation as a healer and teacher does not define all that I am. I do not need to be approved of to approve of myself. So go ahead and bring it. Say what you want to say. It says more about you than it does me. And that feels really beautiful. And I also, I just want to be clear and or circle into this again, because I know there's going to be a lot of questions about this. You can be able to be humble and still learn and acknowledge when you make mistakes and recognize, hey, yeah, I could have done better there. There were some points in the comments where I was like, yeah, I could have done better there. That's a good lesson for me. But also my healing is not your responsibility, and I have no responsibility to you to say hey, I'm gonna, really take in what you said and you are right. I don't need to do that, right? We can all grow as individuals and take what's coming through and learn and receive and just be humble and not be afraid to make mistakes and not be afraid to share our truth and not be afraid to have a strong point of view that people don't agree with. And that's the end of the day. I think that if we can all let go of these distortions that I'm speaking to, we can actually hear each other. And that's really important, to hear one another and to feel one another. And I can feel when somebody is saying something hurtful or projecting anger in their transmission or being triggered and activated and then trying to poke at me to be activated. I can hear all of that. I can see all of that and not take it personally and recognize, okay, how's that mirror work going for you? I can see this. And yeah, I think we all owe it to ourselves to create more sovereignty, because when we are truly honoring the transmission that's coming through us, we don't feel this strong importance in getting it right. We feel instead a strong desire to express it. And we're safe to do that. So, yeah, I hope this story and this experience helped you. If you listened and you resonate, come send me a comment on Instagram. Let's celebrate together. I hope you check out too, while you're here, all of the other beautiful, incredible guests here on the show. The World Needs Your Medicine podcast. I don't talk about it a lot, but this is a safe space where a lot of incredible light leaders share their stories, their lived experience, their tools, and there are so many incredible conversations for you to dive into. So please have fun and enjoy, and I will see you on another episode very, very soon. And in final close, just a little invitation. Go speak your truth. As we wind down this episode of the World Needs Your Medicine podcast, I just want to say thank you so much for listening. It's such an honor to bring you the most incredible guests here on the show. And if you have suggestions, ideas, or things that you would like to contribute, feel free to email us, press@laurenoflove.com. In listening to today's conversation, if there was something that really spoke to you, I invite you to share this conversation with somebody that you love. Talk about it with your friends. Post the replay on your social media platforms. You can even tag us at The World Needs Your Medicine on Instagram. And at any time, it would mean so much to us if you could leave a review on the show. If you're listening on Spotify, just put 5 stars and write something heartfelt on this particular episode if it really spoke to you. If you're on iTunes, all you have to do is just press review and leave your heartfelt reflection in the notes. And if you're listening on YouTube, please come subscribe and continue to follow along for the video format of our show. I'm so happy you're here. Again, I'm Lauren Eliz Love, and to learn more about me, you can go to Lauren of Love on Instagram or laurenoflove.com. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for showing up to do your work. As you grow, stretch, change, and expand, the world needs your medicine, and you're going to start to discover that. So if at any point you feel inspired to join our community, you can go ahead and visit laurenoflove.com/app. This is the sanctuary. I show up and share my courses, my programs, and everything I teach in the online space. That's laurenoflove.com/app. APP. Thank you for being here, guys. I'll see you on another episode very soon.